Welcome, Ice Babies, to the series 3 Wildly Weird and Possibly Unknown Things, where we take you on a journey into the bizarre and lesser-known corners of the true crime world. Today's episode is about a man who lived 2 very different lives, one as a charming millionaire playboy and the other as a ruthless killer. This is the terrifying true story of Chris Wilder, also known as the Beauty Queen Killer. His horrific 1984 killing spree across the United States is filled with strange, chilling specifics you might not know about. The following facts will be presented in unparalleled detail, giving you the full story, not just a few scattered highlights. So let's get into 3 wildly weird and possibly unknown things about the horrifying case of the Beauty Queen Killer. The perfect facade. Christopher Bernard Wilder had all the appearances of a successful, charismatic man who was living the dream. Wilder established himself as an entrepreneur and respected figure in the motorsports sector, becoming a millionaire from his passion in the fast lane. He led a lavish lifestyle, rubbing shoulders with high society. But here's the dark truth. Behind his charming facade, Wilder was and had been hiding a disturbing secret for decades. Born in Australia in 1945 to an American mother and Australian father, Wilder grew up in what we can peg as a privileged household. Wilder's father was a businessman, and the family enjoyed a relatively comfortable life. They lived in a quiet suburban area, and on the surface, Chris had everything: education, resources, and a family that provided for him. Wilder's upbringing in Australia seemed like it could lead to a promising future, but his childhood was marked by a mix of entitlement and troubling behavior that foreshadowed the horrific crimes he would later commit. From a young age, Wilder was known to be withdrawn and distant, avoiding friendships and interactions with his peers. He was often described as a loner, preferring to keep to himself, a characteristic that set him apart from other children. His relationship with his mother was particularly strained, and it's believed that these tensions played a part in his later actions. And why did they call him the Beauty Queen Killer? It wasn't just a catchy title made up by the media. Wilder had a disturbing pattern. He used his wealth and charm to infiltrate the world of beauty pageants, pretending to be a photographer and talent scout. He would promise young, aspiring models stardom and fame, but what they didn't know was his true intentions were far more sinister. Wilder's victims were young women full of hope who had no idea the monster they were dealing with. His tactic of luring them to their death by offering them fake modeling contracts makes his crimes all the more creepy. During his 6-week killing spree between February and April 1984, Wilder went on a nationwide murderous rampage, abducting and killing young women who believed he was their ticket to stardom. In 1984, Wilder abducted at least 12 women and murdered 8. Remember, these weren't random targets. He specifically sought out impressionable young ladies whose only crime was their ambition to make it in the world of modeling. It's terrifying to think how easily he moved within this glamorous scene, all while hiding his evil intentions. Just imagine, you're a young woman with dreams of making it big, and someone you trust to bolster your career turns out to be a cold-blooded killer with eyes laser-focused right on you. Wilder's ability to trick his victims into his trap makes him one of the most manipulative criminals in modern history. A monster with a hidden past. Chris Wilder was no stranger to law enforcement. He had a violent history. Long before his killing spree in the U.S., Wilder had a criminal record in Australia, including charges of indecent exposure and sexual assault. In 1963, at just 17 years old, Wilder was convicted of gang raping a young woman on a Sydney beach. The crime was brutal and set the stage for the violent tendencies that would follow. However, in a shocking twist, Wilder avoided a lengthy prison sentence, likely due to his family's status and influence, and was sent to a juvenile detention center, but his time there was short. He was soon released and left Australia for the United States at 19, where he'd later build his facade of success. What's really unsettling is that Wilder continued to live like nothing had happened. Wilder didn't just escape justice, he thrived. Settling in Florida, Wilder reinvented himself as a successful businessman. He worked in real estate and electrical contracting, presenting himself as someone with ambition and wealth. He became well known for his charm and smooth talk, allowing him to mask his true nature. While keeping up with the Joneses and with an insatiable hunger for more, Chris Wilder did become wealthy, got engaged, and lived a seemingly normal life. However, the dark urges that had simmered beneath the surface for years did not go away. Christopher Wilder's name became synonymous with terror across the United States during the spring of 1984 when he embarked on a brutal killing spree that spanned multiple states. His crimes were horrifying, not only in their brutality, but also in how methodically he planned and carried them out, using charm and deceit to lure young women into his grasp. What followed was a series of kidnappings, torture, and murders that would haunt the nation for years to come. It began in Florida, where Wilder, who was living in Fort Lauderdale, started his terrifying journey. He used his good looks and charming personality to his advantage, often approaching young women in shopping malls or public places. Posing as a professional photographer, Wilder would promise aspiring models lucrative contracts or photo shoots. This was his signature approach. He offered them an opportunity that seemed too good to pass up, drawing them into his trap. Rosario Teresa Gonzalez was last seen on February 26, 1984, at the Miami Grand Prix, where she was employed as a spokesmodel distributing samples for a pharmaceutical company. Witnesses saw Gonzalez leave the Grand Prix track with a Caucasian man matching Wilder's description. A race car enthusiast and driver, Wilder not only frequented the Miami Grand Prix racetrack, he was a contestant at the very event Rosario was taken from. Her car was found parked near DuPont Plaza, and while her body was never recovered, Rosario Teresa Gonzalez was the first murder victim attributed to Chris Wilder. Tina Marie Risico was just 16 years old when she was abducted in Torrance, California. Tina had been approached by Wilder, who complimented her good looks and offered her a modeling job. She, like so many others, had no reason to be suspicious. After driving her to a secluded location in the woods, Wilder bound and raped her at gunpoint. He then kidnapped and kept Rosico for 9 days. Over the course of Rosico's time with Wilder, she was tortured and raped endlessly. Rosico survived the hellish evil Wilder subjected her to, which is why we know some of the unfathomable details of her assaults, such as the way Wilder would electrocute her teenage body and breasts with lamp wires, scars she still bears, a constant reminder of the crimes forced against her. Each abduction was more chilling than the last as Wilder perfected his routine. Find a woman, charm her, abduct her, and then, if she wasn't killed, keep her long enough to torture her mentally and physically. It just drives me mad that even with Wilder's known propensity towards violence against women and his early recorded sex crimes, he was able to continue stalking, scamming, abducting, and murdering victims long after being on law enforcement's radar. In fact, he was connected to multiple sexual assault cases during the 1970s and early 1980s, but each time he slipped through the cracks, avoiding serious consequences. It's wild to think about it, isn't it? A man with a long history of violence and manipulation living like an ordinary millionaire, all while planning his next attack. A final showdown that no one expected. Wilder's killing spree stretched across the country from Florida to California, abducting women at malls, beauty contests, and anywhere he could find vulnerable young women. But his reign of terror came to a shocking and unexpected halt in April 1984. So now let's talk about how this nightmare finally ended. Christopher Wilder's erratic route from coast to coast, where he stopped to lure, torture, and kill young women, kept him just out of reach of police. But it was his ability to financially sustain his wild movements that made tracking him even more difficult for law enforcement. We know Wilder stemmed from a privileged upbringing, and ambitions of greater wealth led him to riches in the United States. But when I tell you the source of his supplemental income, which contributed to these unspeakable crimes, it's sickening. Are you sitting down? Would you believe Wilder profited monetarily from the very victims he targeted? Wilder funded his cross-country killing spree using credit cards stolen from his victims. He would abduct women, force them to withdraw money, and use their funds to continue his journey. On April 13, 1984, after eluding capture for weeks, Wilder was spotted in Colebrook, New Hampshire, where authorities had been tracking him. At the time, Wilder had already abducted several women, and he was believed to be preparing to claim more victims. He was heavily armed and desperate to avoid capture. Knowing they couldn't let him slip through their fingers again, a state trooper, along with local police officers, finally cornered Wilder at a service station in a remote area near the Canadian border. But when police tried to stop his car, Wilder didn't give up quietly. He floored the gas pedal and began to flee into the wilderness. With officers on edge and closing in, the chase ended on a dirt road where Wilder pulled out a gun and opened fire. A shootout erupted between him and the officers. Bullets flew through the air, and in a twist of cruel irony, as he tried to shoot at the officers, Wilder accidentally shot himself, not once, but twice. he collapsed to the ground, fatally wounded by his own hand. The officers approached cautiously, but there was nothing they could do. Wilder was dead before they had the chance to arrest him. After terrorizing the country and committing unspeakable crimes, it's speculated that it was a freak accident during a final struggle that closed the novel on Chris Wilder's violence against women. With his death, Wilder took many secrets to the grave, leaving a vault of unanswered questions. Many of his victims remained unidentified, their families left in the dark about their fate. And though he was finally stopped, there were still whispers that Wilder may have murdered others who were never discovered. However, the question of Wilder's future plans, had he not been caught, can be answered through the evidence collected from his person after the shootout. When police searched his body, they found several $1,000s in cash hidden on him, an unsettling sign that he was still planning to continue his journey, perhaps to claim even more victims. They also recovered his photography equipment and stolen credit cards, tying him directly to his countless crimes across the country. It was clear that had he lived, Wilder would have kept going, feeding his insatiable need to prey on the innocent. Wilder's death may have ended his reign of terror, but it also meant there was no trial, no public reckoning. His victims' families were left to pick up the pieces, forever haunted by the crimes he committed. Let's take a moment to recognize the victims, survivors, and families of which Christopher Bernard Wilder callously preyed upon, many still haunted to this day. I support you. My audience supports you. As I always say, I do not make these productions to give any glory to the convicted like Chris Wilder, but to shed light on the perpetrator's dark secrets while memorializing the victims. Conversations around tragic events can be healthy so long as we're not monsters to each other. Your individual and opposing opinions are welcome here. So there you have it. 3 wildly weird and possibly unknown things about Chris Wilder, the beauty queen killer. From his facade as a millionaire playboy to his criminal past in Australia and the unexpected way his story ended, it's a chilling reminder that monsters don't always look like monsters. If you found this story as fascinating and disturbing as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like. We've got more episodes coming up, diving into the dark corners of true crime, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. And tell us in the comments, what wildly weird case should we cover next? I don't think I can express how much your support means to me. Thank you so much. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.